Welcome to A Better Black America TV on YouTube and all the other outlets. And I appreciate you, my 40,000 followers on my Better Black America Facebook page, Better Black America Talk Radio Show. So this is the radio show, and we're going to just keep it real. The government shutdown is over, and there's winners, and then there's losers. And I have to give the big win to the Republican Party, because the Democratic Party literally got nothing out of the shutdown. And when I say nothing out of the shutdown, absolutely nothing. They got a promise of we'll talk about it. But America appreciates the 6 Senate Democrats that sided with the Republicans and the lone independent, which got it actually passed in the Senate. And last night, a shocking vote of 222 to 209. And contrary to popular belief, 6 Democrats voted with the Republicans. So now we're seeing a situation where, you know, the ACA is subject to being repealed and replaced. Obamacare has become an epic fail. And now we got to deal with, you know, health insurance versus health care. So if you did not see the speech, it's on my page. I broke it down in some multiple reels as well, but the whole speech is up, because during the shutdown, you know, the people in high places, and I can't say evildoers because they all are not evildoers, but the people in high places, they continue to work. They play both sides. So they leaked the information, and it comes top down. And I was forwarded the speech, and I had the privy to actually go on record to putting this out to the American people. So now, you know, how do we pay for it? That was the question, because it literally went viral and everybody's confused. You know, I've seen comments or anything that the government puts down, I can't support, you know, the government this, government that. But this is a total reversal of what our healthcare system has been up until this point. Now that we really understand what's going on, the Healthy America Act is the replacement and the repeal of Obamacare. Okay. Obamacare will be repealed and replaced. It was introduced during the closing of the shutdown and the Schumer shutdown, or whatever you want to call it. But like I said, put it in the comments, the winners and losers. Clearly, the winners are the Republican Party, but most importantly, the winners are the American people. The federal workers, the SNAP recipients, the individuals who depend on government assistance. Because whatever reason, and I'm totally flabbergasted to the point that the Republicans or the Democrats, even still, after going this long, having people go to food banks and, you know, scaring the people and using fear tactics and using this as leverage, still voted to keep the government closed. So the crazy part is that last night they went on record. Good morning to you. They went on record last night and showed the American people that they don't want to feed you. They don't want to pay you your paychecks. They want to keep the government closed. And one of the senators said that the reason that he flipped and decided to side with the Republican Party to open the government on the Senate side, he said that on a voice call or on a conference call, that the plan for the Democratic Party, and you guys are going to have to let this sink in, the plan for the Democratic Party as a whole, and I need y'all to understand this. Hit that like, hit that notification, because the world needs to know. The big plan, the long-term plan for the Democratic Party was to keep the government closed indefinitely. And I'm going to say that again. The Democrats' long game, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, these individuals, these elected officials, the long game was to keep the government closed indefinitely. And when I saw that, and I'm going to go ahead and put him on record, because Senator Dick Durbin, he decided that he's not going to be running for re-election. And we're going to start documenting the Democrats who are not going for re-election, because right now it's like 5 to 6 that already committed that they will not be running for re-election because they broke code, because the donors, the evildoers in high places, or the people who fund their campaigns, they broke the chain. So when I heard Dick Durbin say that he's going to be voting yes with the Republicans on the Senate side. And when he basically said clear out of his mouth that, and he was disgusted. He said he just got off a call, and they basically, in response to Donald Trump, and if you go against Donald Trump, you're going against the United States of America. Basically, Dick Durbin said that the plan for the Democratic Party was to keep the government closed indefinitely. So that means the Democratic Party could care less about you. And this live is about the government shutdown being over, and the winners and losers. And the winners, typically from a political perspective, is the Republican Party, but the American people as a whole. And I'm so saddened to hear that our Democratic elected officials was willing to keep the government closed indefinitely. And then after the bill passed, and after the signage of the bill, because it passed the House of Congress last night, 222 to 209, and when the president signed, they did a press conference at the same time, still lying. And it's sad that Hakeem Jeffries is the face of the Democratic Party. And it's sad that the Democratic Party is on its last days, because the American people are losing trust, and the American people know who's at fault. And it is what it is. So if you got any questions or any concerns about the government shutdown, put it in the comments. I'll be in the comments today. We're doing the radio show today. This is why I'm casual. You hear a good vibe. And this is how I do the radio show here in LA on different outlets. So the Healthy America Act rolled out during the shutdown, by a independent representative, and it's called the Healthy America Act. And it went viral, and the American people want to know how it's going to get paid. So I have the breakdown on how it's going to get paid. If you want to see the full speech, it's actually on my main page, Better Black America TV, or if you look at any of the reels on Better Black America TV, just hit the associated link and it'll take you to the full unedited version of the speech. Now, the Healthy America for All is a healthcare plan that they're going to roll out that's going to be repealing and replacing Obamacare. And with this healthcare plan, there's no out-of-pocket cost for the American citizens, because Obamacare and the ACA is an epic fail. And it's not, it's the Affordable Care Act, but it should be deemed the Unaffordable Care Act for what it is. Now, the Healthy America for All plan is free healthcare that could work. And what free means, okay, it's free to the consumer, but it's not free. So free doesn't mean no cost at all. It means no bills at the doctor's office, hospitals, or pharmacies for patients. And that's a fact. And if you did not know, this week, President Trump, during the shutdown, signed a huge deal with Eli Lilly and other obesity weight loss drugs to basically cap the price at a very, very low price. So that means he's looking out for the American people, meaning we pay exactly what the other countries make. You can't just be hustling America, because clearly you got a fool, supposedly it's supposed to be Trump, who's confounding the wise, because he's actually doing a good job, because America first is what it should be, because he didn't even have to sign that into law. But just go on record that the Democrats was willing to keep the government closed indefinitely. And that's the point of what I'm saying, literally. And in the comments, I've never been to Africa. I'm a foundational Black American. I trace my ancestry back to the United States in the year 1619. And I'm speaking to Brack in the comments. And my people, foundational Black Americans built this country. And this is the movement. And it's sad that it had to take us to get to 2025 for us to free ourselves and deliver ourselves from the party of slavery, the party of Jim Crow, the party of mass incarceration, the party of the 94 crime bill, and all of these terrible blue cities in these red states. So back to the plan, the healthcare plan, because Obamacare needs to be repealed and replaced. And the Healthy America Act is something that the lobbyists and they're going to be talking about in days to come, because the Democrats did not get anything out of the closing of the government. They didn't get anything but a promise for a conversation. There will not be a conversation, so they got played. So it is what it is. So the healthy America for all, meaning we get free health care. It's not health insurance. There's a big difference between health insurance and health care. So insurance is, as an example, we all pay insurance for our cars. We all pay insurance for our cars, right? So some individuals have been paying insurance for years and have never gotten into an accident, but they pay into a big pool of funds. So individuals that do get into accidents, they pay, fix the cars and all of that with a deductible and everything. But the insurance companies enrich themselves and they take a huge profit. That's insurance. Healthcare is not paying for insurance, but when you need a doctor, is there for you. And it's that simple, because we got to break this thing down that even babes can understand it. So how do we pay for it is the main question. Okay. And the think tanks and conversations that people been having is now starting to come into fruition, so we can actually have these conversations. So it's not free, but it's free and there's no out-of-pocket cost for the consumer. Means no bills at the doctor's office, hospitals, or pharmacies. Instead, the government covers the cost through tax revenues, just like public schools, the fire department, and that actually works. So Americans wouldn't have to pay premiums, co-pays, or deductibles, but they would contribute indirectly through taxes. It is what it is. Now, the system is already structured. The repeal and replacement has a structure, and a U.S. version of universal health care could look like this. So option A, there will be some options. Expand Medicare for all. Okay, every American is automatically enrolled in a national Medicare system. Private insurance could still exist for elective or luxury services, meaning, you rich and you get Botox and all of that. That's a whole different story. Let me continue. The other bullet point is the federal government negotiates prices. The federal government negotiates prices for medical procedures, hospital stays, and drugs like other developed countries do. Option B, public option, which is a hybrid option. Keep your private insurance, but create a public free plan that anyone can join, funded by taxes, with private insurers offering optional upgrades. Meaning, if you just want to contribute, you can. But if you need to see a doctor, this is a country, one of the richest countries in the world, and we should be able to provide health care for all of American citizens. And I'm saying health care, not health insurance. That's the key. And this is the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. I got the little blueprint here. I got a rough draft. Now, how do we fund it is the conversation. How do we fund it? Okay. It's paid for. Funding universal health care is about replacing what Americans already pay privately. Now we pay premiums, employer insurance, co-pays with public fundings. Here's how to work. Now, redirect current health spending. Redirect current health spending. The government Doge have found frivolous spending. There's monies going to all different sorts of places. So the monies is there. So redirect current health spending, and the U.S. currently spends $4.5 trillion a year on healthcare, more than any other country. Now, most of that comes from employers, insurance premiums, and out-of-pocket costs for the consumer. Now, if indirected through taxes, this money could cover everyone, just distributed directly. So if they just put it into the system, that would actually cover everyone. Okay. And then option B is another alternative, tax-based funding sources, payroll tax adjustments, because, we all pay, if you have employment-based health insurance, but those taxes and those deductibles will be added to the pool as well. Now, tax-based funding sources. Now, payroll tax adjustments, a small percentage, 4 to 5% from employees and employers, replacing current insurance premiums. And the insurance premiums is how they get their money and how they just, just like I said, it turns out to be a scam. It turned out to be a scam. And then with the progressive, let me see here, I got the document, progressive tax, income tax. Let me see here, on higher earners contribute a larger share, which is fair, because we always talk about, oh, why the poor have to pay the same as the rich. We're not punishing the rich, but if you are in that top percent, you just pay a little extra for the tax bracket because that's just how it goes. Okay. Now, for an example, if you make 2 to 4%, 2 to 4% of incomes will be taxed for individuals making over $250,000. Now, corporate contributions. Now, this is the key. This is something that's never been done before. Now, large companies currently spend huge amounts on employee health insurance. A universal system could require a corporate health contribution similar to payroll taxes, and then additional wealth and financial taxes, a modest tax on large stock trades, or extreme wealth, which means Elon got to kick in, Bezos got to kick in, Gates got to kick in, could generate hundreds of billions of dollars annually. And the savings from this efficiencies. Now, the administrative simplification, fewer bills, fewer billing systems, insurers, and middlemen, literally cutting out the middleman, can save America from this, system that we're paying into now, 400 to 600 billion would it be a year. And negotiating drug prices could save another 200 to 300 billion a year. And the president, since he's gotten to office, has been negotiating drug prices. So they've been rolling this out, and it's going to be a part of the Project 2026 plan, because Project 2025 is complete, because the whole premise of Project 2025 was to get rid of the Democratic Party, and they're literally out of here. Okay. Now, who benefits from it? Now, I'm not with MAGA, okay, but I am invested in America first. Like I said, I trace my ancestry back to the year 1619. That's over 400 years. And my ancestors built this country on free labor. And now it's time for the descendants to speak up and stop hiding behind these scamming Democratic elected officials who all, in fact, was willing to keep the government closed indefinitely, which they were willing to hurt America. It had nothing to do with Trump. They wanted to hurt the middle class, hurt the working class. They wanted you all to have a terrible Thanksgiving, a terrible Christmas, and make it as if some crisis has happened, just like, the fake pandemic. Now, who benefits from this? The beneficiaries are, no one goes bankrupt over medical bills. You don't take a tax hit. You don't take a credit hit because it has nothing to do. You're not going to get punished for it. Okay. No one goes bankrupt over a medical bill. Lower costs overall. Now, U.S. could save trillions of dollars over decades. So we're going to have to put some type of safety net, because we're going to need to run this for approximately 10 years to see if it can actually work. Just like Obamacare. We ran it for 10 years. It's not working. It's an epic fail, and it needs to be shut down. Now, another benefit is a stronger workforce. Now, healthy people are more productive. Now, this is the key. Okay, this is like leverage, not the leverage the Democrats did, to shut the government down. But this is the key. More bargaining power. The government negotiates fair drug and hospital prices. And we all know that President Trump is already, doing that as we speak, because like I said, he did he's been bringing down drug prices since he's got into office. That was a campaign promise. And that's what he's actually doing. Now, the challenges, this is the challenge. The Democrats already was on record, and Dick Durbin blew the whistle on the Democrats, and basically said that they're willing to keep the government closed indefinitely. And that's the reason why he broke, code and voted with the Republicans to open up the government, because the opposition is real. Because the only challenges of this program, or the only challenge of this healthcare plan, which is the Healthy America Act, is from the oppositions, meaning the Democratic Party, the insurance company, and Big Pharma. But these are negotiations that we can have these conversations. So the only issue is the opposition, the Democratic Party, the insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical industry. And we all know that the Democratic Party is an olive branch or extended arm of private insurance and Big Pharma. We know that because this is why they kept the government closed and did not want to open the government because big pharma, the pharmaceutical industry, and the insurance companies, they wanted their payback. All the money that they invested in these politicians and all of that, but it didn't happen. Okay, now the transition period. Now, merging private and public systems would take several years. So this is something that we got to figure out, and we're smart enough to put monies aside, because if it is failing, instead of punishing the American people, we have an option of pulling from the pool of funding, that the safety net, funding that will actually continue to fund, and then we can negotiate down the road. But Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act will be replaced. And public trust is another challenge, because most people believe taxes are being used inefficiently. And this is what the Doge is all about. This is why Trump hired Elon Musk and all of that. Now, it already exists in other countries. And for the record, it exists in Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, France, and others all provide universal health care. I'm gonna say that again. You got Canada, who's already in this program, the UK, Germany, Japan, France, and they all provide universal health care. It has nothing to do with health insurance. It's a big difference between health insurance and health care. Now, they pay less per person and have a better health outcomes. Okay, and America could adapt to these best practices to fit a system for our economy. And that's real. So this is a new day. And those of you, and I appreciate you who've been rocking with me for a while, know I've been predicting that the Democratic Party was going to, they're walking off the ledge. Okay, because they're sold their souls. And when you take these donors' money, when these people elect you and put you in office, your job is not for the American people, not for your constituents. Your job is for the individuals that funded your campaign. And our Democratic elected officials voted to keep the government closed because they wanted to starve you out. They wanted to create chaos and make it seem like, Trump did something to you. So Trump is actually the winner. And the reason I say that Trump is a winner outside of the American people is because he signed the bill last night and every network covered it. Now, he just didn't get up there and sign it. Okay. He had a conversation. He sat back. He threw the Democrats under the bus. He used that as the bully pulpit to communicate and to get the last word. Because if you did not know, he who gets the last, what did it say? He who laughs last laughs best. And he's laughing at you right now. And the Democrats, I don't know how they can actually come back from this. And the only way they come back from this is, from a propaganda perspective, because when I looked to see what was trending, and what's trending today is the Epstein files and its relationship with Trump. Okay, we're going to talk about that too. But today we're not going to be distracted because the Democratic Party took the biggest L the party has ever gotten in the history of the party. This is worse than losing the Civil War, because they was willing to go all the way. When I say all the way, they were willing to keep the government closed indefinitely, according to Senator Dick Durbin. According to Senator Dick Durbin, he said the reason why he had to flip, he changed his tune and he sided with the Republicans to open the government because their plan was to keep the government closed indirectly. Now, could you imagine? Just think about it. Could you imagine if the government stayed closed over the Thanksgiving holidays and individuals that depending on government assistance and SNAP and food stamps and all of that? Just imagine if the government stayed closed all the way past Christmas. Just imagine how terrible Christmas would have been for America. It reminds me, of the Democratic past. Their algorithm is they benefit more through chaos. Just like with the Black Lives Matters, they benefited through, the killing of George Floyd and, brought everybody together. And then they try to manufacture, some situation, during the Trump administration and, the No Kings. But that was an epic fail because the king signed the paperwork last night to get this bill passed. And now the king is going to feed you. Yes. Y'all talking about no kings. Okay. But when the government was shut down, y'all was blaming the king and asking the king, hey, give me my benefits, king. Let's keep it 100. And it's sad that the Democratic Party was willing. That's the part that I just can't get past. And I will never forgive them for that. And I will never let them forget that they were willing to keep the government closed indefinitely just to, put a dent in the Trump's administration. And I don't understand how you can actually go against the president of the United States, because they're going to look at you guys and they do clap back. But that's treason. That's treason. Because if you say we got to take down, the Donald Trump, if you're trying to blow his head off at a rally, that means that you are trying to destroy the United States of America, because he is the president of the United States. And the only way that you guys could survive is that the assassin's bullet. So this is why when you missed, and when I saw that, and then when it happened to Charlie Kirk, I said, wow, they was expecting us to see Donald Trump just leak out like that on national television. And then, these individuals will go out and celebrate the death of a human being. And that's sad. And anybody that's like that, does not love themselves. It's not flesh and blood. It's powers and principalities. If you are celebrating the death of an individual from getting shot, then something is wrong with you. Okay. And this is crazy. So the president of the United States, y'all put all these felonies on him. Y'all threw everything at him, including the kitchen sink, and nothing has stuck. And he's still the president of the United States today. So it doesn't matter what you say about him, because individuals are sitting back saying like, wow, like they're lying to us. And when the American people really, truly understand and realize that only 6 Democratic congressmen and women voted to keep the government open, meaning the entire Democratic Party was on one accord of starving out American citizens, starving out, the working class, trying to hold up the paychecks for air traffic controllers, which would actually create a worse system than we have right now with our on a national scale when it comes to our airports, with canceled flights and delayed flights, federal workers not getting paid, and the president, y'all just gave him a big win, because the air traffic controllers that work during the shutdown, they're going to be getting $10,000 bonuses plus back pay, and all the federal workers are going to be getting back pay. So they basically, that's a win. And I'm sure that they're going to appreciate the president for that. And I'm sure that the American people realize that there's a branch, or there's a wing of the government that needs to be cut off, because it's sad that these individuals, their paychecks were there, and they are sitting back trying to hold up the paychecks and the fundings of American people, trying to hold up food stamps and trying to make, poor, hungry people more poor and more hungry. And then sit back and say, oh, we have a food bank. So, you got to go down there and, eat all your pride and get in line to get something to eat. That's what they wanted you to do. And the litmus test was COVID. And before COVID, it was the Popeye's chicken sandwich, little craze, because somehow the internet could control, that lower vibration and that crab bucket. Because first they had people lining up around the corner to eat a Popeye's chicken sandwich. And then next thing you have people lining up to get a shot, in their arm, not knowing what's going on into the body. And last time that I checked, the shot, killed more people than it helped more people. And individuals that got the shot continued to get COVID. And COVID is nothing but influenza. It was a scam. You could call it misinformation, disinformation. COVID was nothing but, the flu, influenza. Because I looked it up. I looked up the flu prior to the COVID situation, and it was talking about, 500 million, 5 million people annually, get the flu, and how many people died and all that. But then when it got to, I put 2019, 2020, 2021, it said go back to the stats on 2019, because they stopped counting influenza and said it was COVID. It is what it is. So the Democrats wanted to create mass chaos. The Democrats wanted to starve you out to prove a point to the president of the United States, which has basically become an epic fail. So it is what it is. So what y'all got in these comments, man? I just wanted to go out and roll out the, because there was a speech about the Healthy America Act, because Obamacare will be repealed and replaced. And it is what it is. Because when I look at the proposal, you know, President Trump been working on this for a while. So they're looking to switch health insurance to health care. So the only way that we can actually make this happen is that, you know, we American peoples come together and demand it and figure out, put the checks and balances in to make sure that it would actually work for everybody, and not be arguing and debating because our Democratic elected officials, we don't know, what their next move is, but we do know that they're going into the direction of communism, Marxism, and this wannabe socialism. And to prove that fact, that during the shutdown, the mayor of New York City is a 34 or 36-year-old known Marxist socialist communist and a Muslim at the same time. And last time that I checked, the United States was a Christian country. Okay, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we got to push back. And this is why the exodus is here when it comes to the Democratic Party. This is why, people are leaving the party, by the droves. And it started out when they just basically had no primary, and they pushed Kamala Harris on us, a career prosecutor who slept her way to the top. Okay, i.e. Montel Williams, i.e., the mayor of San Francisco. That man was 64 years old. She was 27. And that was his breezy. And he was married at the same time. And he went on record in 2014 with the USA Today ad and basically said that, he got her into politics, gave her $250,000 for her first campaign when it came to district attorney. So it is what it is. But for them to just, talk about democracy, but just give us Kamala Harris, a person that has no likability, who is a known alcoholic, and claimed to be a sister, but her husband name is Doug, not Black Doug, White Doug. Okay, she has no biological children. She, was in the trans and the pride parades, wearing rainbow and all that, promoting a whole agenda, that pushes America far away from God from a principle and a moral perspective. Now, I'm not judging individuals of the lifestyle that they live, but I'm saying is there can't be an agenda to live this type of way. So now that the people have spoken and the coalition started on election night, because 13 million registered Democrats decided not to either show up at the polls or vote down ballot. And I did the research. Mickey Mouse was number one when it comes to write-in as a write-in candidate for registered Democrats, and Jesus Christ was number two. And for the record, I gotta let y'all know that I ran a campaign ad to write in Jesus Christ. It says, write in Jesus Christ 2024, our only hope, just for the record. So this is why I could do what I do. This is why these think tanks are, sending me documents and emails and speeches and all that to share with the American people. It is what it is. And somebody put in the comments that Kamala Harris scares us. Absolutely, because she is, let's just be honest. The Democratic elected officials, they're not, who we think they are. They are pretty much hired guns for the people that we don't see. Because when you get so-called the top black people, oh, she's an AKA, oh, she went to Howard, the top black people to protect the top white people, then their goal is to eliminate, the black race and create a cesspool of ethnicities and get them to embrace African Americanism, which I don't know what that is because I've never been to Africa, but being ethnicity and not a race. So what I'm saying is you got, the LBGTQ elemental P, right? The lesbians, the gays, they say B, but there's no such thing as a bisexual. No such a thing. You could have a wife and 6 kids, but if you are a man and you sleep with a man, that doesn't mean you're bisexual. A bisexual situation is a threesome, because bi basically mean 2. So if I could say I'm bisexual because I'd be smashing 2 women at the same time, but a homosexual sleeps with men, and you can't, that's the key. So they got to take the B out of LBGTQ, because the lesbians, the gays, the trans, the queers, I don't know what AI plus is. And then you got the immigrant community, and then you got the Karens, the women's organizations. Okay. The last time that I checked, there's a large portion of gay white men. So where does the race fit in? So they literally are using the spirit of the party, which is the party of slavery, to basically get rid of and to erase the descendants of slaves so they can actually control and run the party. That's basically what the Democratic Party is all about. So when you have somebody like Kamala Harris, she's not, out there to be for the people. She's hired to do a job, just like Hakeem Jeffries is hired to do a job, and we got to start talking about these Divine Nine members, because Hakeem Jeffries is a Kappa. And to sit back and see this light-skinned, green-eyed brother go on TV and lie through his teeth, it's like he has no soul, because he has to do what he has to do. He's a congressman out of the state of New York. He supported and endorsed Mamdani, the Marxist, communist, socialist mayor of New York City. He went on record and endorsed him. Why? Because not because he likes the guy, because he was told to do so. So when you talk about slaves and coons and sellouts and Sambos and all of that, you got to look right into the Democratic Party, because this is why they don't have honorable men in the party. Good morning to you. How y'all doing? They don't have good morning. They don't have honorable men, because an honorable man that believe in God, no matter what the situation is. Oh, sir, I can't do that. You mean to tell me you're not? Nah, sir, I can't do that. That goes against my, my moral turpitude. I'm not going to go on public record and endorse a, communist, Marxist, socialist. Okay, well, then we're not going to fund your campaign. Well, so be it. I won't run for re-election. That's what a real man would do. But somebody who sold their souls, somebody who, joined the fraternity, see it through, went through all of that. This is why they pick these individuals from these secret societies and from these sororities and fraternities, the Divine Nines. So think about it. The mayor of Detroit's a sister. Think of all the black mayors. Now I'm not talking about Commie Karen or Karen Bass, because that's a whole different conversation. But all these young mayors being elected, and these police chiefs in Memphis and Detroit and all of that, they're all members of the Divine Nine. They're in that secret society Greek system. And I'm sure the sister, she probably a AKA or a Delta, not sure, but I bet $1 that she is a member of the Divine Nine. They're not going to select an individual that's not, because this is the play. They take our uppity bourgeoisie black people, they get them, put them out there, who already took the oath, and make sure that they do the job to protect, the top whites. Because it's all about white supremacy, because the party, the parties never change. The people change. Now, the Democratic Party is the party of slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration. Okay. But think about the individuals that they, select. You got Cory Booker, who's a Kappa, that goes on record every single day since the shutdown, blaming and lying through his teeth. And he does it with a straight face. They know how to deflect. They do, sold is sold. So now that the party is over, and now that the jig is up, now that they've, lost, okay, this is, why we got to keep that same energy. Because just be honest with yourself. The Democrats took the biggest L ever, okay, ever. They got nothing out to deal but a promise to have a conversation. And that conversation is going to be about repealing and replacing Obamacare or the ACA with the Healthy America Act, meaning we're moving from health insurance as a mandate. That's slavery. If you don't pay for health insurance, then you're going to be penalized. Okay. And then if you do pay for it, it's unaffordable. What if I don't want health insurance? Well, you got to pay for it. Okay, that's a form of slavery. And any time that American people don't have a choice, that's when, you got to pay attention. That's the red flag. You should have a choice. Just like car insurance. We're forced to pay car insurance. Okay, you can't get your car registered without it, right? Okay, but the car insurance is there just because, and on record, there's going to be accidents, there are going to be casualties, but you're paying into a pool for the insurance companies to basically fund that. But say, for instance, if you never have an accident, then you just basically paid monies that could have been in your bank account. Same thing with health insurance. If you never get sick, but you've been paying health insurance for the last 30 years, and now you're older, and now you qualify for Medicare and Medicaid and all that, you basically put thousands of dollars into a system that you didn't even benefit from. So when we talk about the repeal and replacement from insurance to health care, meaning it's there when you need it. Okay, no out-of-pocket costs, no co-pays, no premiums, no deductibles. And that's what's moving. That's the plan moving forward. And it's the Healthy America Act 2026. And Obamacare has to be repealed, has to be replaced, because it is broken. It is broken. So we, the people, have to realize that, we can survive with just one wing of government. Because the left wing is sick, the left wing is faulty, and the left wing is going to have to be removed from a surgical perspective, meaning we could live without one wing. So that'll be our leverage as we the people. If we get rid of the left wing of government, and if the right wing has issue, we could cut that off as well. But the right wing, typically, based off of their principles, they want to make America great again. They want to put America first. And they wanted to open the government to put food on your table. They wanted to open the government to pay the federal workers. They wanted to open up the government to pay TSA and to pay, for our air traffic controllers. They voted yes 16 times. The Democrats voted no 16 times and still took that L. And much love to the 7 senators who voted with the Republicans. You have 6 Democrats as well as 1 independent, and one of them was Dick Durbin. And Dick Durbin went on the House floor, on the Senate floor, and basically said he just got off a call, and they're basically calling for the Democrats are calling for the government to be shut down indefinitely. And that's crazy. That is unforgivable. That is not humane. That is not right. And that is not the American way. Our elected officials have let us down. And now we're seeing individuals retire. You got 6 Democrats on records, whether it's in the Congress or the Senate, that will not be going up for re-elections. And the most notable ones are Dick Durbin is not going up for re-election, and this is why he flipped. And Nancy Pelosi is not going up for re-election, but she voted to keep the government closed. Think about that. Nancy Pelosi voted to keep the government closed. Hakeem Jeffries voted to keep the government closed. So Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer voted to keep the government closed, meaning they voted to keep you from getting your food stamps. They voted to keep you from not getting your paychecks. They voted to keep you in a situation because they wanted to create chaos. They wanted to invest in soup kitchens and have you, go into these soup kitchens and they'll come out and they'll be the ones who feeds you. I could see Hakeem Jeffries in his shirt and tie. I'm out here with the American people. This is not right. We're feeding people here. I'm feeding people. They want you. Okay. They wanted to create more liabilities, but it failed. It failed because I'm sure of the 6 Democrats and that 1 independent, it was hard for them to sleep at night. And I'm sure their constituents talk to them and their family, and they say, you know what? This thing is not right. But when Dick Durbin went on record and he said that he just got off a call, he immediately went to the Senate floor and basically said that they're calling to have the government shut down indefinitely, and he couldn't do that. And that was the difference. So we thank you for that. And then in the Congress last night, the vote was 222 to 209, with 6 Democrats voting with the Republicans. Thank you. So now all the individuals who voted to keep the government closed has to be exposed. Has to be exposed. And when they sit back and want to point and, well, Donald Trump and all of that, that's no. We're going to keep that same energy. And it's crazy how, Trump, the headlines is Trump Epstein. That's the distraction. We're going to get into that this week. Okay, we're going to get into that, if not this week, next week. But that's a distraction, because now the only way that they can, not get grilled on social media, or the only way that they won't get destroyed or demolished or mollywopped on social media, is to throw out the Epstein files. And I'm sitting back saying, wow, that's a grand distraction. But I'm here to let you know that all your Democratic elected officials, except the 6, that voted with the Congress, to keep the government open in Congress last night, they want to sleep at night, but they would have never gotten a vote in Congress if the Senate had not gotten the Super 7. Okay, 6 Democrats, 1 independent. And Dick Durbin, like I said, I just can't repeat this more. That Dick Durbin, when he got off that call, he said, hey, I'm going to vote with the Republicans on the House floor, because I just got off a call and they're mandating and saying that, we're going to keep the government closed indefinitely. And then the 6 broke plus the 7. And then all of the Democrats voted to keep the government closed, to show their allegiance to who, to what, to where, to when, to how. Why would the entire Democratic senators, why will all the Democratic senators except the fearless 6 who flipped, including the extra 7, the 7th vote, that independent, why would all of them vote to keep the government closed? And they say it's about health care. And that health care was ransom. Why would the Republican Party have a conversation with y'all with the government closed? You guys are not in power. Okay, because everybody knew once the bill passed the Senate floor, it was going to pass in the House no matter what. And 6 Democrats said, hey, I'm voting over here. I'm going to be with the winning team, because the Republicans won last night. And the biggest beneficiaries are the American people, the 40s of millions of people that's on SNAP and food stamps, the government workers, the air traffic controllers. And then we are dawning on one of the busiest times when it comes to our airports, and that's the holiday season. And that's the Thanksgiving and Christmas. And they wanted us to be affected by that, because the Democratic Party thrives off of chaos. And we can just go back to the Black Lives Matters, George Floyd in COVID era. And this is how they was able to, switch all of this stuff up and kick the can down the road when it comes to Obamacare, to put in COVID mandate or COVID subsidies to basically make it cheap for everybody. And they already put in the time censor, meaning that these things are going to expire. So now that they're expiring, they want to basically hold the American people hostage to basically vote and to negotiate, Obamacare and the ACA and fund it at the same time. No, that thing is dead. It's over. The Healthy America Act is what we're, talking about right now. And the American people deserve health care. Okay. Free health care. It's not free, but it's no out-of-pocket costs. And that's what the Healthy America Act is all about. So when you look at the Democratic Party, we got to let them know how we really feel. Because I'm sure, people don't, hurt people. But there's a mindset of individuals. You got, battered women or battered wives who've been abused, and they accept it. Sometimes you just got to take what's given to you, that slave mentality mindset. It takes an individual with a low vibration and no love of God, no love for self, to basically accept or to be associated with a political party that was willing to keep the government closed indefinitely just to prove a point to the elected president of the United States. That's treason. They don't love us. They don't love you. So now let's hold our vote ransom. And this is why we're building a coalition outside of this duopoly, outside of the Democratic Party, because, the nonpartisan independents, the formerly known Democrats, basically showed the Democrats that we're not going to take it anymore. This is why 13 million registered Democrats did not vote for Kamala Harris. If everybody that's registered as a Democrat would have showed up at the polls and voted for Harris, Harris would have won by a landslide. But 13 million registered Democrats decided to not vote for her. They either did not show up at the polls, they either wrote in a different candidate down ballot, and Mickey Mouse and Jesus Christ was neck and neck when it came to the write-in, and 3.3 million people either voted for Jesus Christ or Mickey Mouse. And that's there to let you know. That's there to let you know that the American people is not playing. So if you add those 13 million registered Democrats that didn't vote, she would have blew Trump out. But it would have taken a major turnout like Obama's first term. But the American people's not having it. So now that we see the party failing, we see the party, diminishing, we cannot revive it. It's, do not resuscitate. And matter of fact, this is a mass exodus of the party. This is a mass exodus. I'm a nonpartisan independent, formerly known as a Democrat. I've been voting registered Democrat at 18, been voting Democratic my whole life, but I stopped when it came to Hillary and Trump. I could not vote Democratic with Hillary because she called me a super predator when I was in college and said that my people need to be brought to heel. Okay. So I didn't vote for Trump. I wrote in myself. I wrote my name in and I'm on record. But this time around with Trump and Kamala Harris, I basically wrote in Jesus Christ because I wanted to go on record to have this conversation. So the party is over. The jig is up. Every Democrat, except the chosen few, every Democrat voted to keep the government closed and was in support of what their mandate was. And that was to keep the government closed indefinitely. And that's sad. And all they did was give Trump basically one of his biggest wins. Matter of fact, the biggest win on record, because this is the Democratic Party's biggest loss since the Civil War. So this has to be Trump's biggest win, because last night when he signed this bill into law, he used the prime time free advertisement to basically, sign this bill to throw the Democratic Party under the bus, to make them, look like they're incompetent, they're out of touch and out of reach. And the American people truly understand that and saw that. And that's the impression that the American people will have for this party forever, because you can't change history. No matter how many speeches you go out, you full of what. You lying through your teeth. It is what it is. So now that we are embracing a change and dawning on a different era, okay, and moving from health insurance, which typically hurts American people because the Affordable Care Act is unaffordable and was an epic fail, we're moving from health insurance to health care, because in the countries where it already works, they don't have a problem. And that's Canada, UK, Germany, Japan, France, and other countries that provide universal health care. So it's time to have that conversation. It's the Healthy America Act, which is the repeal and replacement of Obamacare, which is an epic fail. And somebody put in the comments, landslides is out of reach. Well, the landslide wouldn't have been out of reach if the 13 million registered Democrats would have just voted down ballot in terms of party line, and it embraces the lesser of two evils theory, which is now a theorem, is no such a thing, because Lucifer and Satan, same thing, no lesser of two evils, can't do that. But those individuals decided not to vote for Harris, and that's one of the biggest things that could have ever happened. because if they voted blue, no matter who, Harris would have won and she would have been the president of the United States. So we would have had a bed-wenching drunk concubine, wannabe sister as president of the United States. Nah, didn't happen. You see how she's going on a book tour. Could you imagine her, being the most powerful person in the world? Nah, they would have basically she wouldn't have been running the White House. We would be in wars right now. But like I said, I don't even want to imagine that. Okay, but now that the people have spoken and the Democrats have delivered the biggest win for the Trump administration, and there's no coming back from this. Because like I said, I turned on multiple TV. Trump was on TV like he was doing a State of the Union address, and I'm sitting back and he just sitting there waiting, just having that conversation. Then when he signed it, I'm sitting back like, wow, and just from a comedic perspective, I said, damn. That signature looked like the signature or the picture in the Jeffrey Epstein's house, but they basically, trying to use the Epstein files as a distraction, because we all know that Trump and Epstein was friends. Okay. But they're trying to implement Trump, but they don't want to, it's a lot going on. And like I said, I'm going to do a deep dive and I'm going to give you the receipts on it. But the fact that today, a lot of the mainstream media is talking about Trump and Epstein is a distraction, because the Democrats took the biggest L that they ever have taken, post Civil War. And our job is to make sure that they will never build back better, or they will never rebrand themselves, because the party is moving from, it moved from the party of civil rights, it moved from the party of inclusion to a communist socialist situation. Because if you don't think they're done with the mayor of New York being a 36-year-old communist Marxist socialist, it's crazy. But one of the major players basically said that the mayor of New York situation is pretty much like trading places, a bet amongst rich people. Let's see if we can get a socialist Marxist elected. They did, because the statement went out and said it's, good for, every 20 years we test the temperature and see, how the American people feel about, socialism. And clearly he's not even been sworn in as the mayor. And there's a lot of kickback, people talking about leaving the state, and it is what it is. So it's an experiment, because America will always be a constitutional republic, and America will always be a Christian nation. To the republic which stands one nation under God. That's what's bring us together. That's what makes us America, and that's what makes us connected, because we the people shall not stand for this anymore. And the Democrats in the Senate and the Democrats in the House of Congress was willing to keep the food off of your table, keep your paychecks held up, because Dick Durbin blew the whistle and said the reason why he flipped and voted with the Republican senators to get this bill passed is because the call went out and they basically was on a mission to keep the government closed indefinitely. So with that being said, man, y'all have an amazing day. Somebody said what happened. What happened is, and I'm in the comments right now, the government is open. It passed last night, 222 to 209. 6 Democrats sided with the Republicans on the on the Congress floor, and then the and on the Senate floor, 7 fearless elected officials, 6 Democrat, 1 independent, voted in the Senate to actually get it passed, to take it to the House. It passed the House last night. Trump signed it into law last night. Prime time, delivering the biggest loss to the Democratic Party in American history. And the face of the party is Hakeem Lion Jeffries, Shutdown Schumer. And the party is over. So now they wanted to debate and conversate about, the Affordable Care Act, and, insurance is going to go up, and basically they're going to repeal and replace it with a healthcare system, AKA a universal healthcare system. And the speech went out during the shutdown, because they wasn't working, but the people was working. So the speech went out. And today I just broke down how it will be paid for, because that was a lot of the questions. That was a lot of the questions. How it's going to be paid for. So, and you know, it's going to get paid for. And one of the ways to pay for it is expanding the VA, Medicare, Medicaid for all American citizens, as well as tax revenues and all of that. Because when you go to the doctor under this new bill or under this new act, under this new bill, the Healthy America Act, you will basically no premiums, no co-pays, no out-of-pocket costs, and it's paid indirectly through taxes and a system that's already functioning and it's there when you need it. Not like insurance. You pay your auto insurance for 20 years and may not even had a claim or not even had an accident in 20 years, but you've paid into it. Could you imagine the funding or the monies that you could have saved and putting that money into your bank account? Think about that. But all the money does is enriches the pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, the insurance companies, etc. So under this new system, it's basically there when you need it. So instead of paying insurance, you go to the doctor and it's there when you need it, and no out-of-pocket costs, no co-pays, no deductibles, and the United States of America picks up that bill and picks up that tab. And it is what it is. So with that being said, man, I appreciate y'all. Hit that like, hit that notification, help the algorithm. And I appreciate y'all. And you guys have an amazing day. This your man, Bushan Glover, signing out of Better Black America TV, a Better Black America Talk radio show. Have an amazing day. Peace out.